In a fortnight. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the living room where Aiden and Matty Rocker sat side by side, controllers in hand, engrossed in a heated round of Fortnite. The siblings, known for their unparalleled skill, maneuvered through the virtual landscape with a seamless blend of tactics and instinct. The game was more than a pastime. It was their shared language, a way to bond after school and during lazy weekend hours. As they navigated through snobby shores, one of their favorite spots due to its loot and strategic positioning that fit their style of play, Aiden directed Matty to cover him while he raided a nearby house. "Watch out. I think I saw movement in the west house," Matty warned, their screens lit up with the vibrant colors of the game, the sound effects of footsteps, gunshots, and distant explosions filling the room. They worked in perfect harmony, covering each other's backs, communicating enemy positions, and sharing resources. Another team approached, but with a well-placed sniper shot from Aiden and a quick burst from Matty's assault rifle, they managed another victory. "Yeah, that's how it's done," Aiden cheered, offering a high five. Matty laughed and slapped his hand with gusto as a sudden glitch distorted their screens. The graphics flickered, pixelated distortions warping the edges of their virtual world. "Did you see that?" Matty asked, frowning at her screen. Before Aiden could reply, the room plunged into darkness. The only light came from their flickering TV screen, casting eerie shadows. A surge of electricity buzzed through the air, the sound unnervingly like the static charge of an impending storm. Then the power cut out completely, leaving them in utter darkness. "What the—" Aiden started, his words cut off by a sudden lightheadedness that swept over him. Matty felt it too, a dizzy spell that clouded her thoughts and tugged at her consciousness. "Matty, do you feel that?" Aiden reached out, trying to locate her in the darkness. "Yeah." Her response was barely a whisper before both felt the strange sensation intensify. It was as if the room itself was spinning. The feeling was overwhelming, disorienting. The world around them fades to black as they lose consciousness. Consciousness returned to Aiden and Matty like a shock wave. They awoke to the deafening roar of engines and the cold rush of air. Disoriented, they found themselves seated on an old, rattling bus, now soaring through a sky streaked with the colors of an alien dawn. Their eyes darted around the crowded bus, taking in the bizarre assortment of alien passengers that defied imagination. To their left, a trio of Geladites huddled together, their translucent jelly-like bodies shifting colors with their emotions, glowing a soft blue of calmness. Across the aisle, a towering Zarnak stood at least 8 feet tall, his rugged stone-like skin resembling a chiseled statue, his eyes a piercing silver. Nearby, a group of slender insectoid creatures whispered among themselves, their fine antennae twitching in sync with their rapid, clicking speech. Each alien wore a harness similar to what humans might use for extreme sports, equipped with gadgets and gear, foreign yet faintly recognizable. An eclectic mix of beings, creatures with shimmering scales, others cloaked in robes that defied the laws of physics, stared out of the bus windows or at their own hands, expressions ranging from bewilderment to fear. "Where are we?" Matty's voice trembled as she clutched Aiden's arm, her eyes wide, taking in the surreal view surrounding her. "Looks like a battle royale game of some kind," Aiden muttered. His mind raced. This was not the Fortnite they knew, and it wasn't just virtual anymore. They were part of something unimaginable. A loud buzzer sounded as the side doors flung open. A harsh alien voice crackled over an intercom. It spoke in many languages. "Prepare for deployment." Panic surged as several passengers leaped out, their forms shrinking against the vast open sky. Aiden grabbed a nearby backpack, hastily checking its contents, basic supplies and a parachute. "We need to jump, Matty, just like in Fortnite, remember? Stick with me." His words calm as his hectic pace betrayed them, exposing his anxiety. Matty clutched the edges of her seat, her knuckles white as she stared at the open bus doors. "I'm fine playing a game, Aiden, but this is real life. That's another story," her voice tinged with fear. Aiden, strapping on his parachute, glanced back at her with a determined look. "I don't think we have a choice," he insisted. Matty's eyes darted around the bus, taking in the alien faces and the yawning drop beyond the door, then back at her brother. "Nope, still not jumping," she declared, shaking her head. Aiden, frustrated. "Come on, Matty, we don't have time for this." Matty just stares at him. "We can't wait too long and be the last ones out," Aiden argued, his tone urgent. "If this is like any battle royale game we've ever played, we need to get off soon, or we'll be behind in gear and in strategic location. Our placement will suck, you know that." Matty mumbled under her breath with a touch of dread. "You're right." Then, with a sudden burst of courage, or perhaps desperation, she let out a blood-curdling scream that seemed to echo across the skies. Spinning around to face the drop, she leapt out of the back door without another word. Shocked, Aiden hurriedly adjusted his straps and dove after her, his heart racing as he plunged into the unknown. Aiden quickly oriented himself in the air, his eyes scanning for Matty amidst the blur of rushing wind. He spotted her, adjusting his body posture. As they hurtled downwards, Aiden quickly maneuvered through the rushing air to catch up to Matty, whose figure sliced through the sky with unexpected grace. He managed to reduce the distance between them, aligning himself parallel to her as they continued their rapid descent. "Matty, to the right. There's a spot away from the others," he yelled, hoping his voice would carry over the whistling wind. She glanced over, nodded sharply, pointing towards a lush, less crowded landing zone that promised safety and resources. Aiden led the dive with precision. They waited until they was low, and with a swift yank, they deployed their parachutes. Sails billowing as they aimed for a strategic touchdown together, they veered towards a small clearing surrounded by dense foliage, ideal for a discreet landing away from prying eyes. As they landed, their pendants beeped to life, the screens flickering with incoming data. A message echoes out. "We are the Galactic Council of Worlds, an assembly of advanced civilizations spread across the cosmos. We orchestrate an annual event known as the Galactic Battle Royale. This grand event is not merely a spectacle of combat, but serves a critical purpose in the galactic community. It is designed as a sophisticated mechanism to assess and integrate emerging worlds into the broader cosmic alliance, using this competition as a test of resilience. It is rooted in tradition. Historically, the Battle Royale was conceived as a way to settle disputes among planets without resorting to full-scale war, evolving into a ceremonial yet competitive event that tests both individual and collective strengths. In modern times, it serves a dual purpose, providing entertainment that unites various species in a common cultural experience, and more importantly, scouting potential new members of the Galactic Council. Worlds without space travel technology participate unknowingly. Their champions, if victorious, earn their planet a place at the Council's table. This inclusion brings technological advancements and protection under the Council's vast resources. Each year, the events are held on a neutral world, specifically chosen by the Council for its suitability as a battleground and its lack of advanced native civilizations. The chosen venue is prepared with immense care to ensure fairness and to display a variety of challenges that test not just combat prowess, but intelligence, teamwork, and adaptability. Each species or race's numbers was chosen by their strength-to-size ratio. The ultimate goal of these games goes beyond entertainment. They are a critical tool for the Galactic Council to assess the readiness of non-member worlds for contact with the broader galactic community. Success in the games can lead to advancements in technology, propelling a world into a new era of prosperity. Thus, the Galactic Battle Royale stands as a testament to the Council's commitment to a structured approach to expanding its membership, ensuring that all potential new members are capable of contributing to and thriving within the galactic community. This methodical approach safeguards the political stability of the galaxy, nurtures the growth of its constituent civilizations, and prepares them for the responsibilities that come with being a part of such a vast interstellar society. Their pendants beeping once again and going dark. With their newly found information, Aiden and Matty absorbed the revelation of their roles in this larger-than-life contest. They weren't just fighting for themselves. Their actions could potentially uplift or doom their entire world. Armed with knowledge, the siblings felt a mix of empowerment and vulnerability wash over them as they stepped deeper into the alien landscape. The forest around them buzzed with strange sounds, a cacophony of distant roars, and the rustling of creatures unseen. With every step, the siblings felt the stark reality of their state. They needed to find equipment, and fast. "Think, Matty," Aiden whispered, his eyes scanning the dense underbrush for any hint of supply drops or hidden caches that were commonly part of such games. "The Council wouldn't drop us here completely unprepared. There have to be resources. We just need to find them before anyone else does." Matty nodded, her mind racing through the possibilities. "Let's head towards that ridge over there," she suggested, pointing towards a distant silhouette against the sky. "High ground could give us a vantage point and maybe, just maybe, a chance to see where they might hide supplies." As they made their way to the ridge, every shadow could be a threat. Every rustling leaf might mask an ambush. This game had no rules, and it seemed there was plenty of opportunities for the cunning and ruthless. Matty and Aiden approached the ridge, the terrain growing increasingly steep and treacherous. The ground was slick with moisture, and everywhere they looked, slimy, viney bushes clung to the earth and each other, forming a dense, tangled barrier. As they made their way, the vines seemed sentient, stretching out as if intending to trip them. The ridge's deceptive beauty quickly turned into a nightmarish struggle as the vines began to move with more purpose, tightening around their ankles and wrists. It became clear these were no ordinary plants. They were carnivorous, reacting to the warmth and movement of their new prey. Matty yelped as a vine wrapped tightly around her leg, pulling her down. Reacting instantly, Aiden slashed at the vine with his knife, severing it with a swift, clean cut. The battle escalated quickly. With every step, more vines lashed out as if angered by their resistance, making the climb nearly impossible. Matty and Aiden found themselves back to back, using their knives in what seemed like an endless dance of slash and retreat. Their blades moved in rhythmic arcs, cutting through the air, severing vine after vine, yet still they kept coming. "Keep moving," Aiden shouted over the noise of their struggle, pulling Matty up as she stumbled. They fought their way up the ridge, every cleared patch of ground hard-won. Sweat mixed with the slime of the plants, making their hands slippery and their grip on their knives precarious. As they neared the top of the ridge, following the meandering path of a small creek bed, they noticed the vines began to thin. The presence of flowing water seemed to deter the plants, which recoiled from the moisture that washed away their sticky secretions. Realizing this, Aiden guided Matty to stay close to the water, using it as a barrier between them and the carnivorous flora. Finally, as they cleared the last of the thick vines and emerged onto flatter ground, Aiden looked back at the ridge they had just conquered. Despite the peril, he couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. "You know," he panted, catching his breath, "I actually like this position even better now. It's got a formidable barrier of carnivorous plants near the base, perfect for keeping unwanted visitors at bay." Matty nodded, wiping her brow. "Let's just hope we don't have to go through that again. But yeah, it could keep others out." Their ordeal had not only tested their physical strength, but also their resolve. As they set up their watch post at the top of the ridge, they knew they had an advantage now, an almost impenetrable natural defense that would make their position much safer. The vines, as deadly as they were, had become an unlikely ally. Their knowledge of the creek bed and how to use it, invaluable now. Reaching the ridge provided more than just a view. It offered a momentary safe haven to regroup and plan. Below, the land sprawled out like a map, sections of it marked by natural barriers and others by artificial structures that could hold valuable resources. "This is real, Aiden. We're really doing this," Matty said. She turned to look at him, seeking reassurance. Aiden met her gaze, his determination clear. "We've handled challenges before, and we'll handle this one. We stick together, use our heads. And remember, we're not just players, we're representatives of Earth. Let's show them what humanity is made of." With a plan forming, They descended from the ridge, moving stealthily. They knew they had to arm themselves quickly, moving to the structures they saw. Matty says, "So let me get this straight. All we have is a knife, some rope, and what looks like a syringe with a medical stamp on it in this bag. Is that all you have?" Aiden looks into his bag and replies, "Yep, looks like it." They approach the odd structure cautiously, its contours alien and undecipherable, possibly a housing unit or storage facility. It was hard to tell. Aiden clutched a knife in his hand. He turned to Matty, who was crouched low among the bushes, blending seamlessly with the natural environment. "Stay here," Aiden instructed softly, his eyes fixed on the structure's shadowy entrance. "I'll check if it's clear. If not, I'll come out and turn the other way, giving you the back of whoever comes after me. That's the plan." Matty nodded in agreement, tucking leaves and bits of vegetation around her outfit, enhancing her camouflage. Aiden couldn't help but be impressed. "Ghillie suit out of the native fauna. Nice sis," he remarked with admiration. She just snickered in response, her focus sharp as she watched her brother move stealthily towards the building. Aiden crept closer, every sense heightened, his heart pounding in his chest. The structure, upon closer inspection, seems abandoned, its two-room layout simplistic yet functional, likely used for storage. His knife ready for any threat. Finding no immediate danger, he gestured for Matty to join him. Matty moved quickly, her makeshift ghillie suit rustling softly against the underbrush. Inside, they discovered several containers strewn haphazardly about the room, sealed shut. Aiden examined the seals, his mind racing with possibilities. This find could be a game changer. He waved Matty over, and together they prepared to break the seals on the containers. In the gloomy light of the alien structure, Aiden and Matty stood before the rows of containers. Each defied their initial attempts to open. The surfaces were smooth and unyielding, save for a strange white panel on the top of each box. They tried prying them open with their knives, leveraging with all their might against the stubborn metallic edges. As Matty wrestled with one particularly stubborn container, her hand slipped from the knife and pressed down on the white panel. To her astonishment, the container swung open with a soft hiss, revealing its contents. She burst out laughing at the serendipitous discovery, her eyes sparkling with triumph. Aiden, observing what she had done, wasted no time. He reached for the white panel on the next crate, pressing his palm firmly against it. Like magic, the lid popped open with a satisfying click. They exchanged a look of excitement, biolocks that responded to touch, specifically designed to open with the contact of a living being. Eagerly, they moved from container to container, now simply pressing their hands against the panels. Each crate opened easily, revealing an array of supplies and equipment that seemed alien. Matty uncovered a crate filled entirely with syringes, each marked with the same set of symbols that were on their pendants. Among the symbols, one distinctly represented medical aid. "Jackpot!" she exclaimed, her voice echoing slightly in the hollow space of the structure. Her excitement grew as she pulled out a SCAR assault rifle from another box. "Yeah, that will do nicely." "You think?" Aiden murmured half-jokingly, a hint of awe in his voice as he opened another crate nearby. Inside, he found a small chest plate. Curious, he slipped it on and instinctively pressed the white square symbol at the center. Instantly, a bluish shield flickered to life around him, accompanied by a soft hum. A small readout on the plate caught his eye. Red dots slowly climbed up the side of the chest plate, humming louder with each illuminated dot, then settling into an almost imperceptible hum once fully lit. "Matty, shoot me," Aiden said. "I want to test the limits of this new gear." She laughed heartily. "I don't think so, Aiden." Instead, she playfully smacked him with the back of the rifle she had just found. The rifle's butt bounced off the bluish barrier with a clear, resonant sound. "Yeah, that's a shield all right," she observed as the top two lights on the readout flickered down and then began climbing back up. "Look at that," Matty pointed. "I think that's your power level right there. Keep an eye on that." As she pops the shield again with the gun, and the lights drop and slowly climb again, Aiden nodded, his eyes fixed on the climbing lights, appreciating the technology that now protected him. In the silence of the alien structure, Aiden's hands moved quickly, opening another crate. To his surprise, it contained a weapon unlike any he had seen, a magnetic rail rifle, single bolt action, which he surmised was a high-powered sniper rifle. Beside it lay a backpack filled with heavy rounds and a range finder. His eyes widened at the discovery, appreciating the sheer potential of such firepower. "Now we're talking," Matty says excitedly, her gaze fixed on the sleek weapon. Their moment of triumph was abruptly cut short by a sound from outside. The siblings froze, listening as the rustling grew closer. They quickly grabbed their gear and ducked behind the containers, peering cautiously towards the entrance. 3 geladites entered the room, their bodies glowing a soft yellow, a sign of fear. The alien trio moved hesitantly, their eyes darting around the room, noticing the open boxes. Their glow intensified to a brighter yellow, signaling a heightened alarm. Matty, sensing an opportunity, stood up slowly. "We don't have to be enemies," she called out, her voice steady. "We can work together towards a common goal." Aiden hissed in disbelief. "What are you doing?" Matty hushed him with a gesture and continued, "We don't need to fight each other. We can be teammates." The lead geladite's color suddenly shifted to a deep blood red, followed quickly by the others. In a flash, they lunged at Matty, knives drawn. Without hesitation, Matty raised the scar and opened fire. The room was instantly filled with the sound of gunshots echoing off the walls. The geladites, hit by the barrage, splattered against the surroundings like jelly, their viscous bodies bursting apart. The red glow turned into a spray of red and yellow slime, painting the walls in a grotesque display of alien internals. Aiden watched in shock as Matty made quick work of the attackers. The echoing gunshots slowly faded, leaving a ringing silence. "We can't stay long now," he said, his voice tense as he glanced towards the entrance. "Someone will have heard that. We need to move." Matty glanced at Aiden with a sense of urgency flashing in her eyes. "We need to hurry and loot them, gather what we can, and be out in less than 2 minutes," she instructed crisply. Her voice carried the weight of their critical timing, knowing well that lingering too long could attract more danger. As they approached the downed foes, Matty and Aiden moved with precision and speed, each of them knowing their role in this swift plunder. Matty quickly rifled through bags and grabbed any visible weapons. Aiden, meanwhile, focused on collecting any technological devices that could be crucial for their survival or offer them tactical advantages in the days to come. Finding a light and a small power cell, he quickly tucks them in his bag. Their movements were synchronized, a dance they had mastered through countless drills. Each second counted as they filled their packs with salvaged goods, not wasting a moment. "Everything useful, nothing more," Matty reminded Aiden, her eyes constantly scanning their surroundings for any sign of incoming threats. Her watch beeped a 30-second warning, pushing them to move even faster, wrapping up their collection effort. With their packs now heavy with supplies, they prepared to make their exit. "Let's move," Aiden hissed, leading the way back. Matty nodded, her breath heavy with the adrenaline of the encounter. They collected the most useful items they could carry, with the weight of their actions hanging between them. Survival was paramount, Matty orders. Back to the ridge. Assessment time, covering their tracks as they moved. Having secured their newfound arsenal, they cautiously made their way back to the ridge that had offered them a vantage point earlier. The weight of the sniper rifle was reassuring in Aiden's hands as he adjusted the scope, surveying the landscape for any sign of threats. As Aiden scanned the area, his gaze settled on a small clearing where a dramatic scene unfolded. 2 aliens clad in vibrant red cloaks were engaging the Zarnak, known for their towering stone-like bodies and formidable strength. The agility and speed of the red-cloaked figures were on full display as they coordinated their attack with precision. Aiden narrated the encounter to Matty. One darts behind him, the other shoves, tripping the slow Zarnak, his voice low and tense. On the ground, the Zarnak struggled as the 2 assailants jumped onto him, attempting to subdue it by stabbing repeatedly with their knives. However, their efforts seemed futile against the Zarnak's rocky exterior. With a sudden burst of strength, the Zarnak grasped one of the attackers, rolling over with him and pinning him to the ground. Aiden watched through the scope, transfixed as the Zarnak raised its massive stone-like fist and brought it down, crushing the head of its opponent with a sickening crack. The scene was brutal, the aftermath gruesome as the head of the cloaked figure exploded in a shower of alien viscera, scattering debris across the foliage. The second red-cloaked figure lunged at the Zarnak's eye, knife poised to strike, but to his astonishment the Zarnak caught him mid-jump, the blade glancing off and bending against the mineral-like skin of the Zarnak's eye. Matty, curious, reached for the rifle. "Let me see," she demanded, leaning closer. With the remaining red-cloaked figure captured in its grip, the Zarnak's raw power was fully unleashed in a chilling display. It seized the struggling figure with its other hand. The alien's cries pierced the air as the Zarnak held him aloft. Then, with a horrifying display of strength, with both hands, the Zarnak tore him in half. The red-cloaked figure's screams, abruptly silenced. As the top half of the body fell to the ground, a cloud of dust billowed from the Zarnak as it cleared its lungs, taking deep, shuddering breaths that resonated like the growl of an ancient beast. The dust settled around its feet, mixing with the alien blood and remains, a stark reminder of the brutal realities of the galactic battle royale. With one last look through the scope, Aiden slung the rifle over his shoulder, and they both retreated deeper into the foliage, each step away from the clearing a step towards survival, their minds racing with the implications of what they had just witnessed. Matty says, "We need to camp on the ridge, hiding until the numbers thin." Aiden agrees. Another day dwindled as Aiden and Matty maintained their vigil, taking turns with the sniper scope to scan the surrounding area. They had not seen nor heard anything alarming since the gruesome encounter with the Zarnak, but the quiet only intensified their unease. As the hours passed, Aiden began to grow restless. "We need to find food," Aiden complained, his stomach rumbling audibly. Matty nodded in agreement, her eyes scanning the landscape until they landed on a distant tree in a field. It bore strange, bulbous fruit that hung heavily from its branches. "Look over there," she pointed out, hopeful. "Maybe we can eat that." Aiden shook his head, his expression wary. "No, we can't just eat random stuff from an alien world. That could kill us. They wouldn't put us down here without a viable food source. We need to sneak over to that area." He gestured towards a cluster of buildings that looked like a housing complex. "And search there." "You go search," Matty suggested, taking charge of the situation. "Give me the sniper rifle. You take the scar, and since you have the shield, it'll be safer for you on the ground. I'll be your eyes in the sky, holding this position." Aiden was hesitant, his protective instincts flaring up. "No way in hell I'm leaving you alone," he countered firmly. Matty was unyielding, her tone serious. "I'll be fine. If I hear something, I'll move along the ridge. You can find me here." Reluctantly, Aiden agreed, though he couldn't shake off his concerns. "Sounds like a plan, but let's scout it for a few more hours before I move out. We need to be sure it's safe." "Good thing we waited," Matty breathed out, relief in her voice. Aiden, alert at her tone, sat up straight, peering towards her. "What is it?" he asked. "It's the two reptilians," she explained, her eyes not leaving the scope. "One is on the edge of that big white building, in the brush. The other just went inside. The one in the brush is holding a rifle of some kind." Aiden nodded. "And the one that went inside?" "He had a knife in his hand," Matty continued, her voice low. "Yep, there he is, coming out now, moving along the wall." She watched as the figure dashed to the next building and disappeared inside. The second reptilian adjusted his position, clearly providing cover for his companion. After a tense few minutes, the first reptilian re-emerged, carrying a box marked with various symbols, one, unmistakably, a food symbol. With excitement, Matty relayed the information to Aiden. "The building next to the big white one. Look." Handing him the rifle, Aiden peered through the scope and his eyes widened in amazement. "Yeah, that's a food symbol," he confirmed, the outline of the icon clear under his focused gaze. Matty, piecing together the clues from their surroundings, explained her realization. "It's clear to me now. All the crates and objects have symbols on them, color-coded. The green ones, those are for us, or for humans. Each world has its own language and symbols to represent what it is to them. It makes sense." Aiden laughed, the absurdity of the situation striking him. Did you think the Jello creatures could speak English? He joked, slapping his leg in amusement. Yeah, shut up, Matty retorted with a mock glare. I still think it was a good idea to try. Aiden grinned. Yeah, me too, because it's now out of your system. You know how these things go. Every movie we ever watched, every game we ever played. I'd rather trust in each other than a potential backstabber. Aiden raised the rifle again, peering through the scope. We need that box, Aiden decided, his mind racing through possible approaches. But we have to be smart about this. If we can distract or draw them away, maybe I can sneak in. Matty nodded, her brain working in tandem with her brother's. Let's give it a couple of hours, observe their patterns. If we can predict their movements, we might find an opening to exploit. Settling back into their watch, they continued to monitor the reptilians' movements. It was then that a sudden explosion echoed through the trees, drawing Matty's attention. Over there, in the trees, she exclaimed, pointing. Aiden quickly swung the rifle scope in the direction Matty indicated. As the debris settled, he squinted, searching for any movement. I don't see anything, he muttered, frustration edging his voice. But then, from the brush, a cylindrical object hurtled into the clear area in front of the larger white building and exploded spectacularly. The reptilians reacted instantly, rushing to the edge of the building. The one armed with the rifle raised it and began firing bursts of energy bolts into the forest, the powerful shots tearing through trees, toppling them like dominoes, severing trunks with clean, sizzling cuts. Aiden describing the chaotic scene to Matty. As the smoke unfurled, the other reptilian cautiously moved forward to investigate the source of the explosion. Just as he neared the site, the ground beneath him gave way, opening into a pit. He fell with a startled cry, tumbling into the trap laid hidden underfoot. It was the work of the Insectoids. 2 of them appeared suddenly from a connecting tunnel, their figures swift and lethal. They leaped into action, stabbing ruthlessly with sharp implements. Within moments, the reptilian lay motionless, a lifeless corpse at the bottom of the pit. To the galaxy's surprise, the humans, considered frail, weak, and slow, have outlasted half of their opponents in the fiercely competitive galactic battle royale. The event, broadcast empire-wide by the Galactic Council, has captivated audiences with its unexpected twists and intense drama. As the stakes rise, betting odds fluctuate wildly, more so than in previous years, with high-value stakes such as asteroid belt mining rights being wagered alongside the fortunes of various participants. Now, after a week and a half filled with strategic maneuvers, dramatic showdowns, and relentless action, the game is drawing nearer to its climax. Remaining in the fray are 3 insectoids, known for their cunning and agility. The lone Zarnak, a formidable rock creature, 1 resilient reptilian, and 2 humans who have defied expectations. With such diverse and powerful contenders still in play, speculation is rampant across countless worlds about who will claim victory in this year's grand spectacle. The stakes are incredibly high as each participant not only fights for personal glory, but also the chance to bring honor and significant advantages to their home worlds. Who will emerge as the champion of this year's galactic battle royale remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the entire galaxy is watching, eager to see which contender will rise to the top. Matty snatched the rifle from Aiden with a determined glint in her eye. I'm looking for myself, she declared, positioning herself to get a better view. As she peered through the scope, she caught sight of the last reptilian, cautiously advancing to investigate the fate of his ally. With his gun pointed ahead, he moved slowly. Suddenly, the ground under his feet gave way. The insectoids had burrowed directly to his position, setting another cunning trap. The reptilian, caught off guard, fell through, blasting wildly as he dropped. One of his shots struck an insectoid, disintegrating it instantly. The remaining 2 insectoids quickly emerged from the hole. One of them, with quick, precise movements, activated a device. A holographic display flickered to life, and out of thin air, a floor materialized, covering the hole. Matty watched in shock, her eyes wide. Aiden, look at this, she said, passing him the rifle. Aiden took the scope and observed as the insectoid used the device again. This time, a small structure began to form around them, rapidly transforming the site of the hole into a small, fortified building. "That must be some kind of matter replicator," Aiden murmured, fascinated by the technology at the Insectoids' command. "It's creating walls and floors on demand. I wonder what else that thing can produce." "Hand me that rangefinder," Aiden commanded, scanning the terrain below their vantage point. Matty quickly located the device among their gear, handing it over with a cautious expression. "You know you can't fire from here, right? You'll give away our position. This is the only decent high spot over that location," she reminded him, her voice tinged with concern. Aiden took the rangefinder, adjusting its settings as he peered through it. "I'm just trying to see if you're going to be able to cover me if I go down there, hun. That box over there is unprotected. See it?" He pointed, his tone indicating the urgency of the opportunity. Matty squinted towards the indicated area, noting the lone box sitting seemingly abandoned. "Nice," she murmured, impressed despite the risks. "Here," he said, handing the rangefinder back to Matty. "Yeah, just keep an eye out. If you start shooting, I'll fall back. Don't shoot unless you have to." Aiden nodded, his focus sharpening as he formulated a plan. "I have your back, bro," Matty replied firmly, her confidence a small comfort in the high-stakes environment they navigated. With a plan set, Aiden prepared to make his move. Aiden crept closer through the thick brush, the box now just a few feet away, adrenaline mingling in his veins. As he positioned himself within arm's reach of the container, a sudden blast shattered the silence. An energy bolt from the reptilian's gun smashed into the insectoid's makeshift fortress, the sound echoing violently through the air. The reptilian, having crawled through one of the insectoid's tunnels, stood in the pit next to his fallen ally, firing furiously only 15 yards away. The insectoids reacted quickly, bursting out the back of the building as wall after wall disintegrated under the relentless firepower of the reptilian. In a frantic display of tactical defense, one insectoid matched each blast with the rapid erection of a new wall, trying desperately to counter each destructive shot. Meanwhile, the second insectoid dove into the hole, engaging in a frenetic cycle of destruction and construction. Wall destroyed, wall built. The gun, glowing red-hot from the intense activity, eventually overheated and shut down. Enraged, the reptilian hurled the useless weapon to the ground. In that moment of distraction, an insectoid appeared behind him in the ditch. It had used the chaos as cover, navigating the tunnels to flank the reptilian effectively. With a swift, lethal motion, it slit the reptilian's throat. The creature dropped, twitching violently as it clutched its neck, thrashing about until it lay still, life extinguished. Aiden, seizing the moment of distraction, lunged for the box. He grabbed it securely and sprinted back towards the ridge where Matty was waiting, using the chaotic skirmish behind him as cover. His heart pounded with the rush of the escape, knowing every second counted as he made his strategic retreat back to safety. Another day faded into the cool evening on the alien world as Aiden and Matty settled down to finally open the box they had risked so much to retrieve. Inside, they found packets of a paste-like substance, flavorless and bland, and several containers of water. They tore into the food packets with an enthusiasm born of necessity, making light of the meal's stark simplicity. "Pass me that turkey leg," Aiden joked, a mock-serious expression on his face as she handed him another packet of the paste. "And yeah, hand me another bottle of wine," Matty laughed, as she accepted another container of water from him. They chuckled together, the sound mingling with the rustling of the trees around them, as they looked up at the 3 full moons in the alien sky. "Get some rest, sis. I have first watch." Matty woke up slowly, the morning sun piercing through her eyelids. She blinked into the bright light and murmured, "Aiden, you didn't wake me." Aiden looked over from where he was scanning the horizon with the scope. "Yeah, you looked like you needed the sleep. I just didn't have the heart to wake you, looking peaceful and all," he said with a wink. Matty stood up, a touch of anger in her voice as she began pacing around their campsite. "You know you need to stop coddling me. You won't always be there to protect me. Let me pull my own weight," she insisted, her frustration evident. Aiden smirked, his gaze still fixed on the distant movements. "I let you pull your own weight all the time. Besides, I wasn't tired. My mind is racing." he explained, then nodded towards the area they had been observing. Those insectoids have been at it all night around those buildings, in and out, all around, then back to the woods. They're up to something. Matty, sensing Aiden's weariness despite his protests, handed him a container of water and motioned towards their makeshift resting area. Lay down for an hour or so. I'll keep watch. You need some rest, too, she insisted firmly. Aiden, recognizing the practicality in her words, acquiesced. He settled down with a slight grin. Make sure to save some of that extra tasty paste for me, he quipped. Matty chuckled as she took up the scope, scanning the surroundings. Will do. Just try not to snore too loudly. You might scare off the wildlife. As Matty takes a sip of her water, Aiden says, put your dishes away when you're done. Missy, you've seen the size of the ants on this world. Matty spitting her water across the camp in laughter. From her vantage point, Matty watched intently. The Zarnak stealthily emerged from the woods. He was stalking the insectoids, using the buildings as cover to approach unseen. One of the insectoids moved toward the woods again, leaving its companion momentarily alone. The Zarnak positioned himself just outside the door, hidden to the side. Yep, that's it. If they keep up their routine, the other will be coming out right about now, Matty whispered to herself, timing their movements. As predicted, the other insectoid appeared and the Zarnak lunged, tackling the unsuspecting creature. They rolled on the ground, a tangle of limbs and dust, before the insectoid managed to wiggle free. It popped up hastily, its rifle swinging wildly and smashing against the wall. The Zarnak, unfazed, stomped down on the weapon, crushing it into pieces. The insectoid threw punches, landing several on the Zarnak, but to no avail. The stone creature seemed almost immune to the blows. What appeared as a frantic melee was actually a calculated distraction by the insectoid, who twisted and dodged, leading the Zarnak towards the building's entrance. With a swift kick, the insectoid sent the Zarnak stumbling back, using the doorframe to steady himself. He pulled himself upright, almost falling into the building. The Zarnak charged again, but the insectoid rolled to the side at the last second. It was then that a second insectoid emerged from the building, catching the Zarnak off guard and outnumbering him. Foiled in his attack, the Zarnak backed up and held his ground, roaring furiously, a cloud of dust billowing out like a mini tornado under his heavy breaths. The insectoids, seizing the moment, turned and fled into the building, only to emerge on the other side. Stopping, turning, and watched. The Zarnak charged after them but halted, staring intently at the entrance before starting to circle the building cautiously. Sensing the escalating tension and the potential for vital intelligence, Matty quickly roused Aiden. "Wake up, you've got to see this," she urged, quickly briefing him on the unfolding drama. Handing him the scope, she continued, "Watch how they maneuver." Aiden, now fully alert, took the scope and observed the ongoing chase, his mind racing. As the Zarnak rounded the corner, he charged without hesitation towards the insectoids, who responded by activating their strange device to erect temporary walls in his path. With a powerful charge, the Zarnak shattered the barriers, debris flying everywhere. However, these momentary obstructions gave the agile insectoids enough time to dash to the building, quickly emerging on the other side, stopping and turning to face their pursuer in a tactical standoff. Watching the scene unfold, Aiden noted a pattern. "They're trying to bait him into the building," he murmured, reaching for the rangefinder. The Zarnak, now cautious, approached the building's entrance, peering through to the insectoids on the other side. You could see the tension in their eyes. As a silent standoff pursued. "You're not going to fire, are you?" Matty asked, her voice tinged with concern. "We don't even know what that thing can do." Aiden smirked, dialing in the sights on his gun. "I guess we're about to find out," he said, his voice steady with resolve. "Everyone left in the game is in front of us. We have our rear to retreat to. You know that's not what I'm worried about. It's the tactical advantage of high ground," she countered. Aiden replied thoughtfully. "We could make this a one-on-one right here and now. Us against, I don't know, you pick. I'll shoot." Matty, shaking off the fear that had momentarily gripped her, agreed resolutely. "Yeah, I'm done camping. It's time to bring the thunder." Her voice carried a new determination. ready to shift from defense to offense as they prepared to engage more directly in the game's deadly dance. But let's do this the right way. You take the scar and go down there. I'll snipe. You know the advantage of having a camper in between the sniper and the target, Matty strategized, her eyes locked on the landscape below. Most things travel in a straight line to get to their target. The best place to protect me is somewhere down there. Aiden's smile broadened, a sparkle of excitement in his eyes. She's back, he exclaimed as he grabbed the scar and prepared to move out, energized by Matty's strategic planning and ready to play his part in their bold maneuver. With a clear understanding of where each competitor was positioned, Aiden set out. His target was a strategic vantage point near a clearing where he could better observe the ongoing skirmish between the Zarnak and the Insectoids. The urgency of the situation fueled his steps as he sprinted through the dense alien underbrush, pushing his body to its limits. The terrain was unforgiving. Twisting vines snaked across his path, grabbing at his ankles, while thick bushes clawed at his arms and face. Aiden moved with speed, his eyes fixed on the path. The 300 yards to his destination seemed to blur as he navigated the wild terrain with practiced agility, only slowing as he approached the edge of the clearing to avoid drawing attention to himself. As he crouched low, using a dense thicket for cover, Aiden began to set up his position. He reached into his bag to check his ammunition count, a standard procedure that suddenly took an unexpected turn. His hand met an empty pouch where extra clips should have been. Dropping the magazine from the rifle, he confirmed his fear. It was empty. In his haste to leave their makeshift camp, Aiden had forgotten to pack extra ammunition. This oversight was almost comical, considering that in the countless hours spent in the game back on Earth, his bag was always meticulously stocked with ammo. But this was reality, not a game, and the stakes were all too real. Frustration surged within him. He muttered to himself about the carelessness of the situation. Using the edge of the woods for cover, he peered through the scope, his focus on the Insectoids. As the dust settled from their recent skirmishes, the Zarnak began a slow, deliberate retreat with a calculated precision that underscored its awareness of the landscape. Ever so slowly he stepped backwards, roughly 10 feet from the door, and stops and stares. From her concealed position, Matty watched intently, her finger poised near the trigger of her rifle. The gravity of her decision hung heavily in the air as she silently debated her next move. What to target? She muttered under her breath, her gaze shifting between the imposing Zarnak and the Insectoids, who were adeptly maneuvering around the remnants of their defenses. The choice was complex, each option layered with strategic risks and potential rewards. Matty's mind raced through the tactical evaluations. The Insectoids. These adversaries were swift, capable of rapidly constructing defensive barriers. Their agility made them challenging targets, and their defensive capabilities suggested that any attack would need to be overwhelmingly forceful to be effective. On the other hand, targeting the Zarnak presented a compelling strategic choice, despite its formidable appearance. The Zarnak's intelligence and strength were undeniable. It moved with a deliberate, almost methodical precision that spoke of a creature used to dominating its environment through sheer power. Its only vulnerability, it seemed, was its slow speed. This made it an easier target for a sniper, unlike the swift, agile Insectoids whose rapid movements drastically reduced the chances of a first-shot hit. As Matty considered this, she couldn't help but smile. Matty, firmly gripping the rifle, decided that the Zarnak must go. Utilizing the rangefinder, she double-checked Aiden's settings on the gun, chastising herself for not trusting her brother, realizing all it took was pulling the trigger. This puppy is dialed in. Positioned with a steady hand, she took a deep breath, held it, and then exhaled slowly as she squeezed the trigger. The shot from the magnetic rail rifle tore through the air, delivering near instantaneous results from trigger pull to target impact. The projectile's force was unfathomable, creating a shockwave that sent a noticeable ring of air expanding outward. The shockwave itself seemed to rip through the fabric of the air, carrying a burning ring inside it, as if the air itself was ignited by the passage of the projectile. The round struck the Zarnak's leg, severing it cleanly. The creature twisted and turned, enveloped in a dust cloud. That once was his leg, before hobbling on its remaining leg through the doorway of the nearby building. The Insectoids, witnessing the devastating efficiency of the attack, quickly retreated. They moved backwards with startling agility, hopping into a pre-existing hole for cover, leaving the scene in a flurry. As the Zarnak stumbled into the building, its massive weight proved too much. Unbeknownst to the Zarnak, the Insectoids had cunningly undermined the building's integrity, tunneling nearly 3 stories deep beneath its foundation. Their strategy was lethal, setting the stage for a catastrophic collapse. The building began to groan ominously under the Zarnak's weight. Cracks spiderwebbed across the surface of the walls as the creature's single remaining leg crashed through the weakened floor. The moment was suspended in a tense silence before the entire edifice gave way, succumbing to an inevitable collapse. The collapse was massive. As the floor beneath the Zarnak disintegrated, the entire building seemed to implode inward, the upper stories crashing down into the gaping maw of the tunnel below. The sound was a deafening cacophony of breaking, tearing, and crashing, a symphony of destruction that echoed ominously through the surrounding area. Clouds of gray dust billowed up from the wreckage, shrouding the area in a thick, choking haze. This dust, a mix of pulverized building materials and disturbed dirt, hung heavy in the air, painting the scene in monochrome shades of devastation. The Insectoids, having engineered this trap, observed from a safe distance. Their movements were quick and calculated. As the dust began to settle, the air slowly cleared, revealing the full extent of the devastation. The landscape had been irrevocably changed. Matty, her focus unwavering, suddenly turned to see one of the Insectoids climb out of their hole, surveying the devastation it had wrought. Standing in full view, the creature paused, perhaps a moment too long, allowing Matty a clear shot. She steadied her breathing, aimed, and squeezed the trigger. The shot, however, just missed its intended target, cutting through the air with a violent hiss. The projectile tore into the dirt just beside the Insectoid, creating a deep crater and releasing a thunderous sound that echoed menacingly through the area. Startled, the Insectoid reacted swiftly, erecting a wall directly in front of him for protection. Undeterred by the missed shot, Matty reloaded and refocused. The Insectoid, sensing the imminent danger, prepared to defend itself as another wall was quickly constructed. However, its companion, seeing where the shots are coming from, and realizing the futility of facing such firepower head-on, ducked down and disappeared from sight. Matty fired again. The magnetic rail rifle shot traveled through the air with lethal precision, impacting the hastily erected walls with such force that it exploded through it as if it wasn't even there, the sheer kinetic energy of the projectile igniting a ring of fire in the holes it made in the wall. The upper section of the Insectoid's body was severed cleanly in half, a grim testament to the rifle's devastating capabilities. As the walls crumbled under the impact, they fell upon the remains of the Insectoid, burying it under a heap of debris. In the quiet of the woods, about 50 yards from where Matty was positioned, the ground suddenly crumbled, forming a small hole, a sign that the Insectoid is using one of its tunnels to close the distance stealthily. The creature retreated back into the darkness of its tunnel, re-emerging about 10 yards closer. Peeking out, it assessed its proximity to Matty, then, crawling slowly, it moved closer to her position. It sprang up mere meters away, taking Matty by surprise. She was caught off guard while taking a sip of water. Panic ensued as she fumbled with her rifle, scrambling to grab it. In that moment of high tension, as the specter of death loomed over her, a figure tackled the Insectoid from behind. "Yeah, I got you now," Aiden yelled, leaping onto the creature and landing a solid punch. "I've been tracking your ass underground for 300 yards or more. You thought you could get the better of my sister," Aiden shouted, laying another right hook, then grabbing for the rifle tossed over his back. The Insectoid powerfully responded by tossing him into the air like a rag doll. When he landed, it stabbed at him with the knife repeatedly and kicked him down the ridge, sending him rolling helplessly downhill. "That's my brother," Matty screamed with a fury that could have woken the dead. She leveled her gun at the Insectoid's head, just feet away, and pulled the trigger. The aftermath from that shot was too gruesome to recount here for you today, in detail. Then Matty unleashed a fury of shots on the corpse of the insectoid, firing again and again until nothing but tattered vegetation and holes in the ground remained, screaming at the top of her lungs her brother's name. From the silence that followed, a weak voice called out, "Hey, sis, careful, you almost shot me." Looking up, Matty saw the faint glow of Aiden's shield, which had miraculously protected him from the knife attack and the brutal tumble down the hill. Dropping her rifle in astonishment, she ran to him and slapped him, tears rolling down her face, a mix of relief and frustration. "Damn you, don't you ever do that to me again, you hear?" Aiden, looking up at her with a mix of pain and confusion, managed a weak smile. "Okay, I won't," he replied. As the sky began to shimmer, an awe-inspiring spectacle unfolded above. Ships, previously hidden by advanced cloaking technology, started to emerge into view, their majestic forms cutting through the atmosphere with an elegant grace. The designs of these vessels were varied and intricate, reflecting the rich diversity of the galaxy's civilizations. Some bore sleek, streamlined shapes shimmering with metallic hues, while others displayed complex organic forms that pulsed with bioluminescent light. The sudden appearance of the ships was accompanied by festive music that blared, echoing across the once quiet battlefield. It was a sound that mixed traditional tones with the digital harmonies unique to each culture in the galaxy, creating a symphony that was exhilarating. As the music swelled, balls of light began to shoot out from the ships in a brilliant display of pyrotechnics. The lights danced in the sky, weaving together to form a vivid tableau depicting Matty and Aiden's victory. The images were etched against the backdrop of space in wondrous hues, a dynamic portrait of their courage and triumph, immortalized among the stars. In the midst of this celebration, a sudden beam of light enveloped Matty and Aiden, transporting them instantly. They materialized in front of the Royal Galactic Council, the governing body of the competition. The council members, an assembly of dignitaries from various planets, sat in a grand amphitheater that curved around the central platform where Matty and Aiden now stood. The air was charged with anticipation as all eyes were fixed on them, the latest champions of the galactic battle royale. As the celebration quieted, a dignitary approached Matty and Aiden. Towering above them was a bear-like creature, easily 15 or perhaps even 20 feet tall, exuding a majestic dignity. The council members hushed as he began to speak, his voice echoing throughout the grand amphitheater. "On behalf of the council and the galaxy at large, we welcome a new world today, a new species, and a new set of council members. Open the floodgates to Earth, inform them of their fortune," he declared, his voice rich with formality. The dignitary drew closer, wrapping his enormous arms around them in a gesture of camaraderie. Leaning in, he whispered to them, "You sure shook up the games this year. We establish battle royale type games in all non-space traveling worlds, in secret, to test them. We have held this event for thousands of years, and yet no competitors have ever won in less than a month, your Earth time." He paused dramatically, his eyes twinkling with a mix of amusement and respect. "And no one has ever won in a fortnight. You will go down in history as the underdogs of the match, breaking the backs of the wealthiest in the galaxy. This story will not go away any time soon." As Matty and Aiden stood on the platform encircled by the applause and admiration of the galaxy's most influential beings, they felt the weight of their new reality settle around them. Back on Earth, first contact with alien life came as a shock to the planet. As news of their triumph and the subsequent acceptance into the Galactic Council spread, celebrations erupted across the globe, a unified moment of joy and pride in human ingenuity and spirit. Leaders and citizens alike anticipated the advancements and opportunities that would now be within their reach, eager to explore and expand their newfound interstellar relationships. For Matty and Aiden, the return home was bittersweet. They were heroes, yet they understood the vast responsibilities their victory entailed. They were not just survivors of a game, they were pioneers on the frontier of a new era for humanity. As they adapted to their roles as Earth's representatives on the Galactic Council, They worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between human interests and those of their new cosmic neighbors. They advocated for Earth's potential contributions and sought to learn from the advanced technologies and wisdom of other worlds. Their story, a tale of unlikely victory and boundless courage, would inspire generations. Books were written, films produced, and their legacy studied by scholars and dreamers alike. The tale of how two humans changed the course of their planet's history in the span of a fortnight became a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of determination and unity. As the stars shined brightly above, reflecting off the tranquil Earth's sky, Matty and Aiden often gazed up, reminded of their journey through the cosmos. The universe was vast, mysterious, and now, more than ever, within reach. This is not goodbye, nor the end. Until the story continues, my friends, be and rocker.